Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 375 of the Running for Real podcast. And today I am excited to share we are giving yet another audio edition of Becoming a Sustainable Runner, this time from part 3, Sustain Your Planet. If you missed it over the last few weeks, I've been sharing other chapters from the book. First, we did the chapter from Sustain Your Runner's Mind and Body, which was Bolster Your Confidence chapter. Then we did Sustain Your Running Community last week, and we did the chapter Find Your Place. And this week we are doing, as I said, from Sustain Your Planet chapter, which is Be an Eco-Conscious Traveler. I am very excited to share this chapter with you. This is not going to say, don't fly, eat vegan, you are never allowed to do anything again. We give you a way to develop what we call a pro-environmental lens. We share new ways and interesting ways to explore close to your home. We talk about travel options and how to choose where to sleep and eat on the go. On that note, if you are listening to this, we are working on a series of sustainable travel guides. We have one for New York, we have one for Chicago, and we are working on other cities. If you would like us to create a sustainable travel guide for a city you are headed to, please reach out and let me know. We also have a sustainable packing list, which you will get a packing list in Becoming a Sustainable Runner if you have not already got it. But this is a printable version, and it's just a lot easier to have on the side to just check off as you go. So you can find those in the links to the show notes at runningforreal.com/episode 375. If you have purchased a copy of the book and have read it, it would mean the world to me if you could go leave a review on Amazon. I would really appreciate that. Because Amazon reviews, as we know, are just the most common way that people decide whether they want to buy something. If you could do that, just take a few minutes. There's links in the show notes. I would really appreciate it. All right, let's go check in with one of our sponsors. We'll be right to chapter 12 of Becoming a Sustainable Runner. Thank you to AG1 for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I have been using AG1 since 2019, which is coming up on 4 years now, and it's going to give you those essential nutrients for long-lasting benefits. I have been using this for many years, and especially right now with a book tour, with all these things I have going on in my life, my AG1 has been a critical piece of taking care of my gut health, giving me focus and energy to help me with healthy aging and my immune health. I love that it is one scoop in some water every morning. It is the first thing I do. That's going to give me 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. It's that comprehensive nutrition in one simple scoop. It is a ritual that I have every morning. I wake up, that's the first thing I do, and I know that it takes care of me. So it's so much more than just taking greens, as you might hear other things talk about. It's going to give you that comprehensive blend of core health products that are going to work together to fill in your gaps. So for me right now, with 2 young kids and this hectic schedule, I am missing out on some nutrients, and this is where I know I'm taking care of myself in that way. So as a friend of mine, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 by going to drinkag1.com/Tina. That's drinkag1.com/Tina. It is going to make it so that you have one thing to take. It will take care of you. It'll be there for you. You can take it on the go. We're going to give you that 5 free travel packs when you go to drinkag1.com/Tina. I've been loving it for years. And those of you who have been signed up for a while would have seen that you got a goodie recently. Anyone who was an AG1 user when my book came out will know that you got a copy of the book as a gift from AG1, and that just speaks to the kind of people they are. They care about you, they care about me, and they care about the world. So go check it out at drinkag1.com/Tina. Chapter 12, Be an Eco-Conscious Traveller. Even the most eco-conscious among us have some guilt around travel. Whether it is personal, business, or for racing, travel has the potential to exponentially increase our annual emissions. Many runners avoid contact with environmentalists for fear they will judge them for flying and make them promise to never fly to a race again. Not these environmentalists. That isn't what we are here to do. Yes, reducing our carbon footprint will always involve a discussion around limiting our travel, especially on planes. But it does not mean never traveling to a race again or only signing up for races within 50 miles of your home. One thing most of us can agree on is that living sustainably is not as simple as it sounds. Traveling can be stressful at the best of times. We leave our comfort zone to immerse ourselves in a place where everything is new. As runners, we like to control as many aspects of our lives as possible, which can make staying in a new city stressful. Adding the stress of making environmentally conscious choices when there aren't any available can make us feel like terrible human beings, even though it is not our fault. The most powerful companies in the world employ master manipulators who make us doubt every decision we make in our lives. They work hard to convince us that they are doing their part to save the planet by throwing around impressive eco-friendly words, finding shortcuts to claim they are carbon neutral, and making big promises on their tree-covered webpage pledges, all of which is greenwashing, which we'll talk about more in the next chapter. Despite this, they do very little to reduce their contribution to the climate crisis. This sends a message that if we as a human race fail to avoid the catastrophic devastation of climate change, it is our fault. They portray the message that large organizations have already done their part. There is an approach to sustainability that doesn't leave us feeling like our efforts are hopeless. This method helps us assess our life choices, progressing towards a sustainable way of living without leaving us overwhelmed. It is a practice that allows us to train without giving up everything we know and love about exploring the world through our sport. It is time to start developing our pro-environmental lens. Develop a pro-environmental lens. In Tina's podcast with Knox Robinson, Running Realized, episode 7 of season 1 is entitled The Sustainable Road Race. It focuses on the environmental impact of races and how we can do better. We only have to look at the ground around a water station at one of the major marathons, pay attention to the mountain of trash bags left behind after a race, or think about the number of flights that were taken by tens of thousands of participants to realize that while runners are infrastructure light compared to some sports, we definitely have an impact. Shelley Villalobos, former executive director for the Council for Responsible Sport, gave a powerful testimonial about runners and their impact within that episode of Running Realized. She shared the importance of runners building a pro-environmental lens, defined as, quote, a pair of glasses, metaphorical, that help us get beyond unconscious consumption and into a relationship with our own impact in the world and what we want it to be, end quote. Within this chapter, our intention is not to persuade you to scratch your dream goal race off your lifetime bucket list, but to help you develop a pro-environmental lens. This allows us to make thoughtful decisions about which elements of our life are most important, considering the impact that our fun weekend has on others and using the power of our voice and dollars, we can make change happen. While this can feel too big or too unwieldy as individuals, we can drive change if we are brave enough to speak up. Villalobos knows the internal discomfort and shame associated with becoming more environmentally conscious. There are plenty of books documenting the stages of climate change behaviors and how they affect our mental health as we progress through them. Dr. Margaret Klein Salomon's book, Facing the Climate Emergency: How to Transform Yourself with Climate Truth, can assist in embracing the emotions associated with accepting that climate change is here, right now. Emotions like fear, anger, grief, and guilt can be used to drive action and make change. Villalobos recognizes that the best way to create change within our own lives is to continually and gradually modify our behaviors. Runners go through an evolution as we train and become better versions of ourselves. As our health and fitness improves, we start to look at the world with a different viewpoint. We pay attention to the health of others and the health of our planet. Villalobos has found that those who live an active lifestyle tend to have a positive attitude towards reducing the impacts of climate change and developing their pro-environmental lens. Once we are aware of this journey of growth and acknowledge the impact we have as individuals as well as collectively, we will take action. Doing so helps us process the guilt and shame we have for actions that we have little opportunity to change. Villalobos says, quote, "We can realize instead that every single action in our life has varying levels of impact. Being alive means you have an impact, but we have this really cool ability to choose and be creative and to shape the future. We can start to incorporate that into our decision-making as we go, in an ongoing way as a practice. If we do that, we won't be able to help but to demand and create a more ecologically oriented society," end quote. She also believes we are already moving in the right direction. We have work to do, and there is no finish line to this race, but change at the individual level is happening, and those in power are starting to notice. Once it gains enough momentum, changes will come fast, and that is where we can come together collectively to figure out this climate challenge. Often, we are left feeling hopeless, burdened by our own inadequacy when we think we are not doing enough. Or we believe that nothing we will do will ever be enough to change the course of the future, with billions of people around the globe unable to agree on the smallest detail, let alone a course correct for our world. Rather than pushing those feelings away, we can make a conscious decision to step up, maybe not literally through protesting at the steps of our government building, although if you want to attend a climate rally, that goes a long way too, but through a conscious effort to continually develop our pro-environmental lens. As Villalobos put it, quote, "Imagine if we put the same amount of thought and effort into climate change solutions as we do into our training," end quote. If we can channel some of the energy from the gritty, determined, committed source of our training drive toward environmental action, not only would we be helping our beloved planet begin to heal, but we would also make our running adventures even more enjoyable. While we do not know if we have passed the point of no return, resilience is a key trait we need as runners and human beings as we navigate the effects of climate change. Explore close to home. While we aren't asking you to only participate in running events close to home, the reality is most of us do not make the most of what we have. We tend to get stuck on our familiar routes, parks, and places, even if other exciting opportunities are just beyond those loops we know so well. Signing up for races in our area is one way to check out some of the best running environments, especially in trail running. Race directors put a lot of time and energy into their races. They want to make them the best experience they can for runners, which means they scope out the best spots to have runners traverse through. After all, races are heavily reliant on word of mouth to grow. And when runners share their race photos on social media or positive experience with others, it helps attract runners in the coming years. It can be motivating and fun to work through a lifetime bucket list of races all over the country or world, but it can also be rewarding to run every race in our area. It is also easier to be successful when we race locally because it does not require a big financial investment, time off work, or days spent away from family. It can be enjoyable to experience every distance, variation, and level of silliness that we feel a desire to try. That could mean completing as many local races as possible within a year, if we can afford the associated expenses, or using local races to fill the gaps between occasional big trips. It is important to include the bigger races that our city or town hosts, even if they may not seem as glamorous as some of the races we have done elsewhere. For most of us, local races will not involve 50,000 runners covering distinct boroughs like in the New York City Marathon, or the stunning beauty of running through the French Alps for the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, UTMB. But they will have their own magic and offer something more effective at helping us perform well. Thank you to Allbirds for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast and for supporting me in my journey. Today, I want to talk to you about the Women's Tree Dasher 2. Now, I will be wearing these as I start going through these major marathons where I work long days. When I was at the Chicago Marathon last year, I worked a 13-hour day, multiple days in a row, and I wore my Women's Tree Dasher 2 every day. They were incredibly comfortable. Even when I walked back into my hotel room late at night, I did not have any aches and pains. I love the amount of colors that they come in. My favorite is definitely the Calm Cargo, which is kind of like a greeny colored. As you know, I do love green as it is a naturey color. They are very comfortable. They have great stability. And of course, as is Allbirds, they are passionate environmentally. They are doing the work. They are a B Corp and a highly rated B Corp at that. So that means they are doing what they need to do to be an environmentally sustainable company and relentlessly sticking to that. And so I encourage you to go check out the Tree Dashers if you have something for work, a work job that allows you to wear a pair of trainers, or just for traveling, for when you're on your feet for a lot of time, or just day to day. You will often see me wearing these shoes. They are my go-to. And if you go to allbirds.com, you can go check them out. And also, if you use the link in the show notes, you can get yourself a free pair of socks with your order when you add those to your cart using that link in the show notes. Go check it out at allbirds.com. Hometown advantage. For many runners, the most memorable and cherished races end up being hometown races, and for good reason. We know the streets, we feel safe and comfortable, and can dedicate all our energy to the race rather than dedicating energy to process new stimuli. We know the heart and spirit of our town, and most importantly, the course is lined with people we know and love. People who have seen and paid attention to the sacrifices we made to be in that moment and who have chosen to get up early on their day off to cheer us on. People who love us regardless of the outcome and will still be there to lend support because they know that it means something to us. They care because we care. The energy drives us forward and becomes a bright spot in our race, even through tough stretches. By selecting local races, we can sleep soundly, or at least better than in a new place, in our own beds, perhaps sleep in a little longer, and have the satisfaction of being home and showered, maybe sneaking in a nap if we're lucky, within a few hours. It places a lot less strain on our body and mind, our finances, and our planet. Beyond the potential benefits to performance, running local races means we are supporting the local community. We demonstrate our appreciation for the race directors who work hard to provide events. Our cities can use the participant numbers and customer satisfaction ratings in their grant applications or for funding other outdoor recreation events. Races can even help heal a place that has experienced a traumatic event. Having a big turnout to a local event can indicate the strength of the community as a whole and can be a means of moving forward. Boston showed us the power of healing as a community in 2014, 1 year after the terrorist attack that occurred during the 2013 Boston Marathon, killing 3 people and injuring over 200 more. The city of Boston, along with the running community, rallied around the race with the slogan "Boston Strong" to show the power of healing by running. It can feel like our single entry does not mean much, and yes, race entries can be expensive. There is no doubt that racing, and especially racing often, is a privilege, one not available to every runner. If we can help local races thrive, especially if they are competing against giant race organizations, we can demonstrate that our local community matters more than big, flashy events, and that feels good, even before we step on the race course. Investigate air travel options. Being a climate activist or simply recognizing the need to reduce our climate impact does not mean the end of flying to races. It is important that whenever possible we drive or take public transport to races, especially those that require similar travel time once we add up the drive to the airport, check in, wait for departure, fly, deplane, and travel to our destination. Driving provides more freedom to stop and stretch, get food, and avoid soul-destroying flight delays. That said, air travel is a part of life for many runners, and that is okay. By shaming or publicly humiliating activist runners who do take flights, we play directly into the hands of the companies that work so hard to make us feel that it is all about individual action, as opposed to their larger scale harmful practices. Whenever possible, take a direct flight to the destination, which emits less greenhouse gas. If a connecting flight is required or is significantly less expensive, if time and finances allow, consider extending your layover to explore that city. This could eliminate separate subsequent flights for a future trip. Once you reach the main hub of your destination, explore public transport within that area rather than booking a taxi or using a rideshare app. Public transportation options may be limited in your local area, but if the race you're traveling to is in a bigger city, using public transport can be a simple switch that builds your pro-environmental lens. While it adds an extra step, in most cases, once you get used to a system, it becomes easier and easier. Most of the time, it is just habit to jump in an Uber, but breaking that habit quickly changes your view of a city, especially if you can use e-bikes or scooters to explore the city in a new and fun way. The American Public Transport Association reports that public transportation, with its overarching effects on land use, is estimated to reduce CO2 emissions by 37 million metric tons annually. And yes, 37 million metric tons annually does matter. If public transportation feels like a hassle that could affect your performance, think again. Consider the choices of some of the top ultra athletes. Kilian Jornet, winner of many of the most prestigious ultra races in the world, has committed to reducing his air travel by choosing to utilize public transportation to go to events, as well as exploring what is around him. Xavier Thednard, three-time winner of the UTMB, no longer flies and has committed to doing the races around him instead of traveling. British professional ultra runner Damien Hall discovered that traveling via public transport is not as awkward as you might think. When he traveled to UTMB by train rather than plane, he calculated that the carbon emissions from his trip were reduced from 190 kilograms to 55 kilograms. It only took 2 more hours and he found it more enjoyable and comfortable. The downside is that the cost was more than double, so until prices come down for some types of transportation, there is unfortunately an additional expense. However, the more we utilize public transport, the more infrastructure will be added to make it more cost efficient. Ride-sharing with other runners, when possible, is another good practice. It cuts down on emissions and reduces costs because of the shared expense. And it also adds to the experience. Since we are all headed to the same place, excited and nervous for what race day can bring, talking through our emotions about the event with other runners and being vulnerable through sharing fears and doubts helps us process the investment we have made and recognize that we have value regardless of what happens on race day. Besides, runners are great at reminding one another to stay hydrated and eat often before the race. Travel to the event can then become part of the memorable experience rather than about just race day itself, heightening it and allowing us to deepen friendships along the way. Sustainable travel packing list. We've planned a trip and want to make more sustainable choices while we are away. What can we do to make our out-of-town race vacation more environmentally friendly? We've assembled a list of some of the things to add to our packing list. They'll help avoid some of the wasteful aspects of travel and probably save some money too. Reusable water bottle, reusable cutlery, fork and spoon, reusable straw, reusable chopsticks, cloth napkins, coffee mug, trail mix and other snacks, Tupperware or other containers, dish soap if traveling for more than a few days, soap and container, shampoo and conditioner, toothpaste and mouthwash, laundry bags, period underwear, reusable bag for shopping. And if we are racing, we should bring these: safety pins for bib, heat sheet for before and after the race, water bottle and electrolytes for race. Choose where to sleep. It is not easy to determine which hotels or other lodging options take sustainability seriously. We live in a world where buzzwords remove all meaning from the original intention, and sustainability-focused words are no exception. We may be able to use green hotels in our online search or find hotels with the certification, but it is difficult to know what exactly they are doing to follow through with that claim. Shelley Villalobos half jokes that in an ideal world, we will be looking for hotels that use renewable energy sources, conserve water, have organic and plant-based continental breakfasts, and recycle. We know that not only are these hotels extremely hard to find, but they are significantly more expensive than other options. Finding a hotel that prioritizes its impact on Mother Earth is nowhere near as simple as it seems it should be. Once again, we can use our voice by reaching out to hotels we frequent to let them know our preferences and give them the opportunity to make those changes. It also works the other way. Positive comments on the sustainability initiatives at a hotel as you check out may inspire them to do more of the same. As with everything related to environmental action, talking about it matters. Your voice matters. In the meantime, here are a few tips for finding hotels that are committed to sustainability. Hotels and apartments that make it a priority often prominently display their commitment, backing it up with the action they have taken rather than wishy-washy statements. If a hotel is a member of 1% for the planet, this means that they donate 1% of their revenue to environmental nonprofits and organizations. We can also look at the relationship the hotel has with the city it is based in. If it uses local foods in its restaurant or partners with local businesses and uses their products in the hotel itself, these are signs that they take sustainability seriously. When it comes to our own impact on the hotel, turning off lights and temperature controls when we leave the room are easy actions to take. And we can also be sure to pack items that in the past we may have relied on hotels to provide. Friends, it is that time of year, the best time of year for runners. We get to enjoy the time as the weather cools, as we can get outside and make the most of working our way through the humid, hot summer, getting to the best part of the year. One thing I want to remind you though, this time of year, often runners forget to remain hydrated. We think, oh, the weather's cooling off, I don't need to think about that anymore. And that's just not true. Regardless of whether you're a heavy sweater, a light sweater, or anywhere in between, you need to make sure your electrolytes are staying well topped up because you are a runner and you are sweating. If you're not sure if you're a heavy or a light sweater, definitely go use that fuel and hydration planner that I will give you a link to in the show notes. It is free by Precision. You don't have to use Precision products to use it. I definitely encourage you to go check that out. But I want to remind you this time of year, we got to continue being on our hydration. It's going to help your body recover. It's typically used by athletes to stay hydrated and recover faster after intense exercise. So if you have a goal race, you don't want to let it slip out of your hands now by not taking care of your hydration when you've done so well all summer. I love the pH 1500, but you may find one of the other strengths works better for you. As a friend of mine, you can use code Tina Sent Me to get yourself 15% off. That's code Tina Sent Me, and that applies to the hydration, that applies to the gels, and all the other things that I have talked about and used in my races this year. So go to precisionhydration.com and use code Tina Sent Me. Tina's thoughts. When I first began to understand that climate change was happening now, that this was not some far-off potential future that could affect my grandkids, but was happening right now and is the greatest challenge humanity has ever faced, I started to feel stress about every decision I made. When I traveled, I would take as much as I could with me, even though it weighed down my suitcase and made things awkward. I would whip up a batch of muffins for the trip, make my own trail mix, and pack extra containers for my leftovers. I made sure I told every carry-out restaurant that I did not want utensils and felt anger well up inside me if they put them in my bag anyway. I found myself staring at plastic packaging in the airport as I envisioned it floating around in the ocean for a few months, all for the sake of having a few fruits and vegetables in my juice or smoothie. If I had a 6-hour flight delay at the airport, I would spend an hour of that time walking back and forth between the options, trying to decide which one had the least impact associated with it. I spent my runs obsessing over the amount of trash I could see exploding out of trash cans, cursing the recycling items thrown in there that could have had a potential second life. Traveling can bring climate guilt to the forefront of our minds, and it certainly did for me. I recognized that a lot of the swirling emotions I felt during travel were due to guilt over my own carbon impact. I had learned that my contribution to one round-trip flight like New York to Los Angeles or New York to London added 2,000 kilograms of CO2 into the atmosphere per flight. To put that into perspective, 1.5 billion people in the world do not use that much emissions in a year, according to Climate Watch, a group that offers open data, visualizations, and analysis to help policymakers, researchers, and other stakeholders gather insights on countries' climate progress. In many ways, knowing that information took away the joy of traveling. I would feel anxiety in the build-up to a trip, feeling like a fraud knowing that I was a climate activist, yet here I was flying for work, which was, in the grand scheme of things, quite unimportant, or at least it felt that way. For that reason, while traveling still weighs on my mind for the carbon footprint of travel and hotels, it motivated me to find ways to make small changes. I began carbon offsetting my trips and became a member of 1% for the Planet to donate to environmental nonprofits. It forced me to be creative and reducing my impact in other ways when I'm traveling. Now when I travel, I do a better job of limiting the amount of waste being sent to a landfill than I am able to do at home. Once I got used to carrying reusable items and limiting single-use items by packing for my own personal needs, it was really about my packaging consumption through food. I found that searching for vegetarian restaurants in the area, even before I became a vegetarian, became a way to find places that matched my environmental stance. While not every city has places with vegetarian options, and not every city understands what steps need to be taken to reduce our food waste, we can continue to ask about it when we travel. Most of all, I learned to treat myself with grace. While I can stand up and speak out about the changes that need to be made, I also need to take care of my own mental health and prevent burnout. One of the ways I do this is by traveling and surrounding myself with others who view the world similarly to the way I do. I recognize there is privilege in that, and for me, work and self-care combine into one. Being a climate activist doesn't mean never traveling again. It means being thoughtful with my travel. I can do that, and so can you. Eat on the go. When it comes to eating throughout your stay, try to select restaurants that are either plant-based or have plenty of plant-based options. Restaurants that are known for working with local farms and using organic ingredients are likely to have compostable packaging and try to minimize their environmental impact. Look for places that donate the remaining food to food banks or shelters, supporting the community and minimizing waste. If you have children, be sure to bring along their water bottles along with your own, rather than using plastic cups at a restaurant. Bring a travel-sized container of dish soap to easily wash your utensils and water bottles. If you return to your room to eat, be sure to wash out plastic containers with soap before putting them in the recycling bin. It is estimated that only 9% of plastic ever made since the 1950s has been recycled, with 12% being incinerated and 79% ending up in a landfill. It is also estimated that roughly 12 billion metric tons of plastic waste, weighing more than 36,000 Empire State Buildings, will be in landfills or the natural environment by 2050. Yuck. One of the major reasons for the low recycling rate is because when plastic is contaminated by food or anything else, it is thrown into a landfill or ends up in the ocean. For many municipalities, any recycling in plastic bags, any plastic that still has food on it, plastic cups with straws inside, or plastic that has something unrecyclable still attached will almost certainly be thrown in the trash. This is why we could have easily found Tina climbing inside commercial trash cans when she worked with the sustainability team at the Chicago Marathon in 2022. One contaminated item can change the trajectory of an entire bin. The same rules apply to our at-home recycling too. We should check our local recycling policy to see if washing recyclables with soap and removing any items that cannot be recycled, yes, even if they have the triangle logo, is required in our area. Single-stream and dual-stream recycling have different rules, so be sure to check local recycling guidelines. And most plastic bags for produce or anything made from a soft plastic usually has to be taken to a store. Sending them to the recycling facility through your at-home pickup will cause problems for the sorting center. Does it feel uncomfortable to ask a hotel or restaurant what they are doing to improve their sustainability or reduce their impact on the environment? Absolutely. But ultimately, businesses want to survive and thrive. By asking, we are letting them know that this issue is important to us. And if they hear even a few of those requests, it may be enough for them to seriously consider what they can do to be a part of the solution. Even passionate climate activists still want to be able to explore the world, want to run as fast as we can, and get fed up with all the extra steps we have to take to do everything and anything. It can be overwhelming and exhausting. We hope this chapter has shown that we do not have to be perfect. None of us will be or even can be, but we can all do better together. By talking about it within our circles and by getting used to bringing it up in conversation to continue building our pro-environmental lens, we will move our communities in the right direction. The neighbor effect is a powerful motivator, and by being a leader in our community, we can change the world for the better. We know it is possible. Action steps. Confidently build your pro-environmental lens. Look for small ways to reduce your impact. Create a local lifetime bucket list and begin working through it by exploring nearby parks, forests, and outdoor spaces. Limit air travel to races. Drive or take public transportation when it is an option, especially if the time involvement is similar. Travel with other runners to heighten the experience and reduce your carbon footprint. Whenever possible, select hotels or accommodations that use renewable energy sources, conserve water, have organic and plant-based continental breakfast, and recycle. Contact hotels that you frequent to let them know of your preferences towards sustainability. Encourage them to join 1% for the planet. Bring reusable items and food from home to limit the plastic packaging from purchased goods. Clean plastic containers with soap before placing them in the recycling bin of hotel or lodging accommodations. Select restaurants that offer compostable packaging, have plant-based options, and use local, organic ingredients. Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really loved doing the narrating. I also hated it. It was very stressful and it made me think I couldn't read or write. But I'm loving hearing the feedback of the books, seeing those of you who have left reviews. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you haven't, and you could do that now, that would be amazing. You can go to the links in at runningforreal.com/episode 375 to go get all the things we talked about today, including links to our sponsors. Go get that AG1. Make the most of your winter season. Make sure you are ready. Your body is ready to handle all the elements, all the sickness that is going around. Go to drinkag1.com/Tina. Also links in the show notes. If you go to the link in the show notes, you can get Allbirds a free pair of socks with your order when you click that link in the show notes. And to Precision, you can get 15% off my favorite gels, my favorite hydration. Remember, we still need our electrolytes this time of year. You can use code Tina sent me to get yourself 15% off. Again, also in the show notes at runningforreal.com/episode 375. Friends, thank you so much for joining. I will see you next week.